All right, so I have a few topics to discuss today. The first one is another poll from Canadians on the sentiment towards our neighbors. I know for our community here, we're aligned when it comes to the US. And even the US viewers that are watching this right now, you're probably aligned as well. But in the grand scheme of things, we're still a relatively small community of just under 100,000. But as a Canadian, I thought it's important to get a pulse on what the sentiment is among our Canadian colleagues outside of our community. I also have another video showing a US farmer practically in tears because of what's going on. Now I know what you're going to ask. Who did he vote for? Well, I'm going to show you proof exactly who he voted for. Today's backdrop comes from Philip, who sent in this photo from Blue Rocks, Nova Scotia. And he was able to catch the rainbow in the photo as well. So I appreciate you sending this over, Philip. Thank you very much. And before I begin, I hope everyone enjoyed the backdrop slideshow I did of Canada, the one that I released a few days ago. I actually didn't realize I've made that many videos. But at the same time, watching it made me realize how amazing Canada really is. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'll leave a link in the description below. All right, let's get into it.
Welcome back. A new survey showing a majority of Canadians think that boycotting American-made goods or travel to the U.S. is helpful. According to a new Nanos research poll, 4 out of 5 Canadians say that boycotting American-made stuff or avoiding tourism to the United States altogether will strengthen our country's bargaining position in the ongoing trade war launched by President Trump. Fewer than 1 in 5, or just 18%, think it's not helpful or somewhat helpful. Let's show you the breakdown in age as well. Older Canadians more likely to support the idea. 85% of Canadians 55 and older agree. 74% of Canadians 35 to 54.
Now, this CTV newscaster says that the new poll shows that majority of Canadians feel our boycott is helping with our trade negotiations. I do agree with that, but I also feel it's more than just helping with trade talks. This boycott is showing the US that we're not going to take the US administration's shit. We're not going to be bullied, and we're not going to be forced to do whatever Trump wants us to do. It's also sending a message not just to the administration, but also the US tourism businesses that are struggling right now, and to the rest of the world that's watching this as well. Canada is standing its ground, and we're not going to back down.
Agree as well. Nick Nanos is standing by with more on this, and good to see you, Nick. Your takeaways?
If you poke a bear, they might strike back. And maybe that's the key takeaway. You know, the fact of the matter is for many Canadians, there's not much that they can do on an individual basis except boycotting, avoiding buying U.S. goods, or avoiding or delaying travel to the United States. And it looks like a significant proportion of Canadians not only are doing that, but believe that it is helpful or somewhat helpful. And, you know, that 80%, that's not just any kind of majority. That's like almost like a super majority. You know, when you think of the 54% of people that think that it's outright helpful and another 26. So it's a pretty big swath of Canadians that believe that voting with their dollars and voting with where they go on vacation or where they do their trips helps Canada in its own little way collectively.
Now, this is just my opinion, but I know a lot of you might agree with me on this. CTV has put out some pretty questionable reports in the past, especially when it comes to the narrative about the boycott slowing down or that more people are starting to go to the US again. So I was actually surprised when they did this report showing the numbers in strong favor of the boycott. Because usually, in my opinion, CTV tends to downplay a lot of their coverage. Anyways, back to what this guy said. As an individual, sure, it might not seem like much, and you might not think that you're making an impact. In the past, I did a breakdown video of how much the United States is losing in vacation money just from my community alone. I think someone mentioned it was close to $1.5 million in lost tourism revenue. And that's just from us. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll post the link in the description as well. So if anyone's thinking, oh, I'm just one person, it doesn't matter if I buy this American product, you're wrong. It actually does matter.
Well, I know many of us, Nick, are looking at, products at the grocery store and deciding not to go to the United States, picking other destinations as well. Small things, perhaps, on an individual basis, as you point out, though. Bigger picture, it does have an effect. We're already starting to see that. There are places in the U.S. that rely on Canadian tourists, and they are sending up red flags and have been for months now, saying, this is having a big impact. What does it mean, do you think, for the government when they look at a poll like this?
Well, I think what it means for the government is that a buy Canadian strategy, whether it's you're procuring software or buying things, would actually have a lot of traction right now. And, the thing is that it's also probably a way for the federal government to help mobilize some of these border states that are more reliant on Canadians as consumers and Canadians as customers in order to get them to advocate on behalf of stable and secure trade relations between Canada and the United States.
Now, we've seen US government and tourism delegations come up to Canada, pleading with us to keep the trade, tourism, and cross-border shopping going. We've even had governors tell us that we're not hurting Donald Trump with his boycott. We're hurting our own quote-unquote friends in Maine. And I'll remind everyone, there was that time a group of senators came up here and basically demanded that we change our own legislation. Oh, and let's not forget the border states complaining about our wildfire smoke that was ruining their summer. So when you look at all of that, it really doesn't seem like the border states are pushing their own federal administration to make any changes. It feels more like they're asking Canada to make the change instead.
So I think this is, this is a clear signal to the government that there are some opportunities not only for their procurement, but also to help mobilize Americans who understand that Canadian customers are important to them, and that when Canadians decide not to visit the United States, that it's not good for the U.S. economy.
What do you make of the breakdown in terms of age, where older Canadians are more in favor of this sort of thing? Nick, what's going on there?
Yeah, a little higher intensity. About 85% of Canadians over 55 are good with or think that this is helpful to one extent or another, compared to younger people.
Now, I wanted to add something interesting that I've noticed when it comes to the age groups watching my channel. For the first 3 or 4 months I started, most of the viewers were probably age 50 and up. But over the last month or so, something has changed. The 25 to 50 age group is growing. And what's even more interesting is that the 25 to 34 age group was almost non-existent before. Yet, in the last month or two, that group has been steadily climbing. Something to think about.
The other thing, Todd, there's a bit of a regional divide. If you happen to live in Atlantic Canada or Quebec, you're much more likely to think that it's helpful. But if you get in Ontario, the prairies in British Columbia, the numbers are a little lower on that front. But it doesn't matter how you cut it, Todd. It's a pretty comfortable majority by age, by gender, by region, that think to one extent or another it's helpful when Canadians avoid buying U.S. goods or traveling to the U.S. It's helpful when it comes to the discussions that we're having with the U.S. administration.
Hey, Nick Nanos with us. Good to see you, Nick, as always. Appreciate your time today.
Now again, I'm actually surprised by this CTV report. And if I remember correctly, this Nick Nanos guy has always been one in the past to pushing the idea that the boycott is slowing down or losing momentum. Anyways, this is great news. We're 9 months into Trump's term, and a lot of the haters early on thought our boycott would only lose steam after a few months. Hell, even officials in Bellingham thought we'd eventually come back, and they were shocked that it's lasted this long. But we also have the US to thank for that. So thank you, CBP, to ICE agents, and to the 77 million who voted for Trump, for the daily reminders why we should be avoiding your country at all costs. Now moving on, I wanted to talk about one of those 77 million who voted for Trump. It's another farm video, but in this report, the farmer actually gets emotional on air about what's actually happening. Let's check it out.
The Trump administration was expected to announce a bailout for American soybean farmers as soon as this week, but there are some fears that the government shutdown could be stalling that plan. The soybean industry has been particularly hard hit by the trade war as China boycotts the American export.
I don't believe there'll be a profit this year. I think we will go backwards. It's an endless cycle that we're caught in right now, and this is all I know. Can't do it any better.
Now here's the question everyone's going to be asking. Who did you vote for? Because I asked that same question too. I have to remind myself though, I can't assume that all farmers voted for Trump. There are definitely farmers out there who didn't vote for him, or maybe even voted for Harris, and they're caught up in this mess just the same. So instead, I did a bit of research on Rob Ewald, and what I found pretty much confirms what we're all assuming. He's an avid Trump supporter. I wanted to show you a few of the articles that I found, and I'll leave a link in the description so you could read them later. One of them is actually behind a paywall, but I found a way to be able to read it. It starts off by saying Rob Ewald, a 52-year-old farmer in Davenport, Iowa, woke up the next morning after Donald Trump won the US election feeling 6 inches taller. So yeah, you can clearly see that he felt good about his vote for Trump. The article then goes on to say, I didn't realize how much stress I've been carrying about the importance of this election. And I was really worried about the next 4 years under Vice President Kamala Harris for my kids. Well, Rob, how are you feeling about your vote now? I'm not going to go on and read the whole article, but it does go on to explain more why Ewald voted for Trump. In other words, he believed the lie. And his support for Trump didn't just start at the last election. Ewald actually did an interview with NPR back in October 2020 where he said he was a lifelong Republican. And even though Trump completely screwed over farmers during his last term, he still went ahead and voted for him in this last election. I read through the whole interview, and it's pretty clear this farmer believed the lie, what Fox News is saying, and chose the same option that kept coming back to bite him in the ass. So why did I show this to everyone? Because first, I wanted to make sure that this farmer, the one with tears in his eyes, did in fact vote for Trump. And he did. And second, to show that no matter how much the media tries to spin their story to give sympathy to this guy, Rob, you get zero sympathy from me. You can save those tears because you're part of the reason we're in this mess. And I want you to keep this in mind. It's confirmed that Rob voted for Trump. Just remember that as you go through the rest of this report.
Incredibly heartbreaking. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Lana Zak, who's joining me now from Iowa City, where many farmers are sadly feeling the pinch. That gentleman you were speaking to there, Lana, you can just hear and see how devastating all of this has been for him. So just break down for our viewers the consequences that are sort of trickling down to farmers who are facing these dire straits from trade tariffs over the last few months.
Yeah. Hey there, Vlad. Good to be with you. So that's Rob Ewald. He is a corn and soybean farmer in the Quad Cities. And I have spent several days with him. And over the course of all of that time, that was the rare breakthrough of emotion that we heard from him. Like most farmers, usually he tries to put on a brave face, but he said he wanted to be honest about how difficult the situation really is because he wants others to know that they're not struggling alone. And he grew up in the 1980s watching his parents go through the farm crisis of the 1980s, and he sees the parallels to right now. Part of the problem is that he, as he said, pitched a perfect game. He has a huge harvest. He has tried to keep his expenses low, but with tariffs, all of those expenses have gone up, and the cost for machinery has gone up, the cost for repairs has gone up, fertilizer, all those input costs are much higher now. And then on top of it, China, the single biggest soy purchaser in the world, has decided not to buy any U.S. soy as a result of those tariffs from the Trump administration.
Imagine this, Rob. If those tariffs weren't there, would you still be having tears in your eyes right now? Those tariffs didn't just appear out of nowhere. They came straight from the trade wars and the bad policy decisions pushed by the very administration you supported. So yeah, just a thought, Rob.
That means right now he is stuck with all this extra produce and he doesn't even know really what to do with it, whether he should hold on to it or sell it at an extremely low price.
So how are farmers sort of making ends meet, Alana?
A lot of debt. So in the case of Ewald, it costs about $1 million to operate his farm every year. And so all farmers really operate with loans, a combination of government loans, private loans, and with President Trump promising that this aid package was going to come because they're being so severely hurt by these tariffs. And there's a delay now because of the government shutdown. I spoke with an agricultural economist at Iowa State University, Chad Hart. Here's what he had to say.
Payments can't flow today because the government shutdown. It also means that, if you're looking for a government loan right now, you're not able to obtain a new loan. They'll continue to service old loans, but new loans are now shut off. And one of the big things for the market, as we're concerned there, is the lack of government reports. That will leave the market with a lot more uncertainty as we move through harvest than we usually have.
So the announcement that was supposed to come from the Trump administration of somewhere around $12 billion, we are told right now it can't come because the USDA workers that would put that into place right now, Vlad, they've been furloughed.
Wow, shit. The people who were supposed to help, they've been fired. Well, good luck, farmers. All of this came with your vote for Trump. This is a true FAFO scenario. Although to be fair, I don't even want to use FAFO anymore, because Pete Hegseth ruined it for everybody.
To our enemies, FAFO.
So what's my take on today's video? First, there's actually more support in Canada for the boycott than we might think, or what we're hearing online or in the media. Just because some people aren't as vocal as we are, doesn't mean they're not doing their part. Avoiding US products, skipping US vacations, and finding other options right here at home. Second, farmers like Rob, you got no one to blame but yourself. You might be lifelong Republicans, but at some point, you have to do your own research and stop blindly following whoever your party puts in front of you. Because when you put your trust in a used car salesman during an election, you're gonna get burned. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to help get this message out to more people, and share it with your friends as well. And if you're still here and you want to see my other videos, check out the other ones that are showing up on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.